And the whole book is about an allegory. Hosea lived out how do I put it? He lived out in a graphic manner the kind of covenantal relationship God had with Israel. What do you mean? Hosea was commanded by God to go to the city square and marry a prostitute. And her name was Gomer. And so he did. And she was unfaithful to him, as you can imagine. And God said, you stay married to her. You know why? Because that's how Israel is related to me. All of Israel is like your wife. A prostitute, pouring herself out to whoever else and not her husband. And now everyone can see that. Maybe it'll clue some people in to stop being unfaithful to their covenantal relationship with God. It's all about the covenant. It's all about this marriage, this union, this relationship that God has pledged with us. It's a call to be the faithful bride of God. That's what the whole of human history is about. From the beginning of the Bible to the end. We're at the end. It's all about this covenantal relationship. And this harlot that rides the beast is yet another symbol that has been a part of the Old Testament. Number 2. Underneath that would be Matthew 23, verses 29 through 36. It's there that Jesus indicts the Pharisees, and one of the things that he said is that all the righteous blood will be witness against them, from Abel all the way to Zechariah, who was killed in the temple. All of the righteous martyrs, their blood would be on their heads because of their rejection of him. So Israel, if you will, I wouldn't say blamed for, but was condemned with all of the righteous martyrs, from Abel, the second son of Adam and Eve, all the way until the prophet Zechariah. So Jerusalem is far more guilty, if you will, of being drunk with the blood of the saints than Rome. That's the point I'm making. It makes more logical sense to see her as a symbol of unfaithful Israel than anything else. Okay? Because this is all going back to who is the identity of this harlot? She's seated on the backs of kings. She's wealthy. Her name is Babylon. She's drunk with the blood of the saints, and she rides the beast of chapter 13. Okay? That goes back to this image. Okay? And the last but not least, well, let me, chapter blah, blah, blah. Verses 9 and 10. You turn over. The 7 hills and the 7 kings. I'm going to take a little time with that, because I glossed over it a little bit last week. So the angel says, I will tell you the mystery of the woman and the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns that carries her. This calls for a mind that has wisdom. The 7 heads of the beast are 7 mountains on which the woman is seated. They are also 7 kings, 5 of whom have fallen, 1 is living, the other has not yet come, and when he comes, he must remain only for a little while. Now, on your outline, I put in verses 9 and 10 the 7 hills and 7 kings. The 7 hills have been identified as the 7 hills of Rome. So the beast is connected to Rome, the political power of the empire of the day. What about the 7 kings? He says there are also 7 kings. 5 have fallen, 1 is living, 1 is not yet to come. Scott Hahn, amongst other Bible scholars, who believe that the book of Revelation was written early, not in the 90s, but actually in the 60s. I personally don't hold to that opinion, but he makes a very good interpretation of this section that supports that idea. So I'm just going to present it for your perusal. He believes that the 7 kings are the Julian Caesars. 5 would have fallen by the time of the 60s. He believes that these are Julius Caesar, Augustus, Tiberius, Caligula, and Claudius, the 5 who had fallen. The one who is would be Nero, that would be 6, and one who is to come but reign for only a short time would be Galba, who replaced Nero after his assassination. Galba only reigned for a few months, and he was replaced by Otello, who again also reigned for only a short time, and then was replaced by, I believe it was Domitian. The point is, this, in his mind, sets up the prophetic understanding of what was written here in the book of Revelation. I think it's an interesting interpretation, but if the book were written in the 60s, at the time when Nero was alive, but I don't see it fitting in with the rest of the message of the book of Revelation. I think there is other evidence in the Revelation that points to a later dating. Then who would be these 7 kings? It very well could be this same interpretation. It could be. Or it could mean something else that I'm unfamiliar with. So I just put that out there for your perusal. Is he right? Is he not? It's an interesting idea. I think at the very least what we can take away from it is this: that the beast is Rome, the 7 hills, the kings. Okay? I think the 7 noble rulers there's something to that. Okay? As for the beast, that was and is not, it's an 8th, belongs to the 7th and goes to destruction. So whoever this beast is, whom I would say is referencing the Antichrist at this point, is somehow related to the Roman rulers. Now, I don't think he's some descendant of the Roman rulers. I think he's going to rule as they did, in this absolutistic way. I think that's how he follows the 7 kings. Because if you remember, the Caesars of Rome, particularly Nero, claimed divinity. They claimed to be worshipped. The reason why the Christians and the Jews were persecuted is because they refused to burn incense to the images of the emperors. Because the image of the emperors, because they were gods. You see that? So I think when the Antichrist comes, it's going to be a similar kind of situation. He's going to claim to be God, and he's going to demand worship. And the ones that aren't going to worship him, again, are going to be Jews and Christians. You see that? It very well may be that Muslims won't either, faithful Muslims, because it would be blasphemy to worship a man, just like it would be for a Jew or a Christian. But it may not. They may be deceived, into thinking he is God. You hear what I'm saying? And not just Muslims. I'm thinking other Jews, other Christians. I think that that's how powerful this deception is going to be. We're going to see good people that used to go with us to Mass following this ruler in everything that he says, and arguing with you that how can you not believe he's God? Look at the miracles. Look at all the signs and what I think he is God. You believe Jesus was God. Why can't he? Ah, you hear the deception? Okay? So I don't think it's too far-fetched. And based on what I read in the scriptures about the strong delusion that they'll believe a lie is very powerful and haunting. Haunting. Because it would only be a grace of God that prevents you from not seeing through it. I really believe that. I think that more than anything else, we need to know our scriptures, we need to know our faith, and we need to stay in a state of grace. Because that's the only protection, if you will, we have against the lies and the deceptions of the world. It just is. And the more and more I see this worldly mindset, for lack of a better term, infiltrating into the church, this is what gets me so frustrated, so angry when I hear theologians, so-called theologians, talking about debating on whether Jesus said the Beatitudes or not, voting on which ones were actually said by Jesus. Are you kidding me? When I hear priests or other Catholic theologians talking about, well, Jesus did multiply the loaves and fishes. That's just superstitious mythology. What he really did was he caused people, he touched their hearts and they shared their lunches, just like the little boy did. And after all, getting people to share in a large crowd, that's a bigger miracle than multiplying loaves and fish. And I go, are you kidding me? You say, well, I've never heard that. Well, unfortunately, I have to say, my brothers and sisters, I've actually heard homilies in other Catholic churches in which those very things were said. In my lifetime. This is not 100 years ago. This is now. You don't realize the depths of this kind of insidious. And that's what gets me, these insidious lies. You hear what I'm saying, my brothers and sisters? That's why we have to stay vigilant. Because the deception is all around us. It's in our church. And should we be surprised? Should I be surprised at this? No. Didn't our Lord say in the church there would be wheat and weeds growing up together? Should I be shocked? No. Is God still on the throne? Yes. Does he know what he's doing? Yes. Will it all turn out in the... Yes. Will Satan overcome the church? No. You see, you just have to trust. But I want to point out, trusting isn't just, oh, well, you know, I can't do anything, I'm just going to say. No. You speak up and you say, that's wrong. We have the truth. Our whole belief in the Eucharist and the miracle that happens every Mass is based on the miracle that Jesus did on that hillside when he multiplied the loaves and the fish. Do you hear what I'm saying? Because you start doubting that, then you start doubting whether Jesus is really present in the Eucharist. Do you see how it connects? We start doubting that miracle, then we start doubting the miracle that happens in our churches every day at Mass. That's what you've got to break. You've got to stand up. You've got to speak out. Because if you don't, the lies will continue. Instead of cursing the darkness, you need to turn on the light. And the light comes from faith in God and in His Scriptures. Amen? Amen. Okay, so I'm off my soapbox. Let's get back to the harlot. My thing is here. So that's what's under 1, 2, and 3 on the 7 kings. Okay? Verses 16 and 18 talk about the beginning of the end of the harlot, which leads us into chapter 18. Okay? Verse 16 through 18. And the 10 horns that you saw, they and the beast will hate the whore. They will make her desolate and naked. They will devour her flesh and burn her with fire. Now this leads some people to believe that the harlot is Rome. Because if it was at the time of Nero that it's written, Rome was destroyed with fire. So it's like, aha, here's the connection. It was destroyed with fire. Yes, Rome was burned with fire. Yes, Nero was the cause of it. But it didn't destroy the city irrevocably. It merely led the way for a rebuilding of Rome. On the other hand, when Jerusalem was sacked